Coming up on Face the State, the Nevada Department of Agriculture oversees a huge range of programs, from livestock to lunches in schools. We'll speak with the director about whether this drought is affecting the way they do business. Then, Nevada's program to certify organic products is on the chopping block. What that means for local farmers and consumers when Face the State starts right after the break. Welcome to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for joining us. Well, when you think of Nevada's main industries, you may think tourism, gaming, and mining, but agriculture is actually one of our biggest industries, and the state's governing body oversees a huge number of programs, all the way from farm to table. Jim Barbie, the director of the Nevada Department of Agriculture, is here with us now. Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, really, I'm amazed at how many programs the Nevada Department of Ag covers. It's a big department.
It's shocking. It actually is, absolutely. When I got the position 4 years ago, I was amazed by the size of the things that we managed, and that's expanded over the last 4 years through the last couple of sessions. We've really taken on a lot more responsibility at the agency, and we've really changed how the agency's put together and what our focus is on. We focused a lot more on urban agriculture and really trying to connect urban agriculture and the food craze that we have that's going on in the nation and in Nevada as well to our traditional production agriculture that we have a long history of here in the state.
Now, would you say there's one area that is the biggest focus for you guys, or is it pretty wide-ranging?
Well, in terms of the industry, there's really two main areas, and when we did our study in 2013, and we now do a yearly study on the agriculture industry as a whole, it really showed that production agriculture in the north is a big chunk of the agriculture commodity production that we have in the state, and then in the south and in the north to a certain extent the food manufacturing and that portion of the agriculture industry. Of course, on the Department of Agriculture, we're in charge of checking your fuel pumps to the child nutrition programs that we have that were brought in the 2013 legislative session, to food safety laboratory that we've developed over the last year that's tied to dairy, and we'll be doing more and more with FDA under a cooperative agreement. Yeah,
now we're going to be getting to a lot of that a little bit in a second. I want to start with a big part of what you guys do is ensuring healthy livestock, healthy food products coming into the kitchens of Nevadans. We've got this big outbreak of bird flu happening in other parts of the country. Is there any concern about something like that coming here?
You know, in Nevada, we don't have a sizable poultry industry to mention. We do have some small poultry producers in the urban areas, and they're producing eggs, and we're mindful of the flu issue, and we've been checking that. Our state veterinarian has been out, but we've not had any issues so far in Nevada, although we have had outbreaks in surrounding states, pretty much all the surrounding states, I think, except for Arizona and Utah. But what's probably going to have the biggest impact is in the reduction of those flocks is the egg production. You're going to see a lot less egg production, which is going to mean higher prices, higher demand, and also on your poultry, your meat product.
Any other diseases in any of the other products that are concerns?
We're constantly tracking diseases. We're connected with USDA APHIS, who oversees the international or the national disease monitoring system. We have a state veterinarian, and so we have health checks that are required from your pets coming into the state to someone that's shipping livestock, cattle into the state. And all of that has to go through our vet laboratories and our animal disease laboratories that we have at the Department of Agriculture and verify those records.
Now, you also deal with wild animals. Which ones are you guys dealing with most?
Correct. We have all animal disease responsibilities for the state, so that includes wildlife. We do work in cooperation with the Department of Wildlife, and they have a veterinarian that's actually housed in our health facilities. And so as ranchers, producers have disease issues that they're not sure of, or we see that in the wildlife, they're able to bring that into our laboratory. We do necropsy and evaluation and try to decipher what issues may exist. But we're pretty lucky in Nevada. We have a pretty safe animal structure.
Do we have nuisance animals, though? I mean, I know a lot of ranchers would classify the wild horses and burros as nuisance animals.
Well, actually, those are feral and stray for the horses that are not under the Wild Horse Burro Act. And the ones that are under the Wild Horse and Burro Act fall under the authority of BLM and under their management. And you know, all in all, that management happens there. We're responsible for the feral or stray horses that we have in the state, and trying to keep a balance on those populations.
What role do you play there? How do you keep that balance?
Well, and as of late, in the last several years, you know, with the economic downturn, we're pretty limited to basically public safety funds is the only general fund our agency receives. And so we don't necessarily manage feral or stray horses, but we do have a lot of feral or stray horses on the Virginia range. We just recently entered a cooperative agreement with the Return to Freedom organization, who's working with the local horse advocate groups and trying to keep those horses off of our highways and keep them out of direct contact with the citizenry, because even though they look very tame, they can cause damage and hurt folks, and we want to keep that from happening.
Well, they're wild animals, just like anything else. Now, I know that in the past there's been a program that you know, kind of incentivizes getting rid of other predator animals that could hurt flocks. You know, like mountain lions, that sort of thing. Does that still exist? Yeah,
that's our wildlife service program. That's actually a USDA APHIS program. It's wildlife services, and then we have state trappers, which work under a cooperative agreement with the Federal Wildlife Service program. And so they're largely, that group that we oversee is directed towards protecting livestock, where Department of Wildlife does contract with Wildlife Services itself to do some of the protection of the wildlife themselves from some of the predatory animals.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to meet, I think, especially when we have dwindling resources due to the drought. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more wild animals coming into more populated areas looking for food. And of course, it takes away from grazing abilities for our farmers. What do you guys do about that?
You know, it's interesting. Things looked a lot worse a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, than they do today. With the rains that we've had most recently, the last 4 weeks, that's had a tremendous positive impact on the feed sources out on the range, and even to an impact, you know, I have a small place that I irrigate, and we didn't believe we were going to get any ground irrigation from our rights this year because the water was so low. But with those rains, that brought up the levels that we were actually able to get a couple of irrigations. The difficulty is that some of those springs have dried up in the higher elevations, and so for a lot of our livestock, our ranchers are having to haul that water out to ensure that they've got the water sources that they need to survive.
Yeah, I mean, it makes farming even more difficult than it already is. What do you tell farmers